What's going on, everybody? Brandon with Burnt's Lawn Care. Thanks for tuning in for another video.
Hi.
What's up, buddy? We got little Brandon here.
Hi.
And we got my good friend Eric here with me.
How's it going?
Eric, tell him what's going on with your mower.
Well, I was out mowing and basically it started making a hell of a racket and lost power.
Lost power, making a lot of noise on the top end, you think, or the bottom end?
Not really sure, but
Yeah.
it sounds
Bad.
not good yet.
So guys, this is his 2013, I believe it's a 2013, right bud? 2013? 2015,
Hi.
Right Stander X 52. Say hi, Brad.
Hi.
It's only got, let's see, I know it's got low hours on it. What do we got for hours? We have 518 hours. And you know, he said the other day he was out mowing with it and it lost all power, started smoking, and was making a lot of noise. Sounded like a sewing machine.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards a valve train issue, but we won't know until we dive into it. So first things first, we're gonna get it in the garage and we'll fire it up, but we won't run it long, and we'll let you guys listen to the noise that it's making. All right guys, before we get started on this repair video, I know I have been missing for quite a long time. You guys have been messaging me, which is awesome. Want to know how we're doing. Guys, everything's fine. We just been super busy and just trying to stay on schedule with the business this year. It's grown quite a bit and I haven't had as much time to film.
Hi. I am school.
So when Eric said that his mower was broken, I said, you know what, let's make a video on it. Let's get some good footage for you guys. Right, buddy? So I'm not gonna run this machine long because obviously we have something going on with the engine, but I have my stethoscope here. I'm gonna listen to the valve train on both cylinders and try to pinpoint which one is the problem. Hopefully it's not both, but what I'm leaning towards is probably a rocker arm might have come loose, and that's what's causing this horrific ticking noise that it's making. But worst case scenario, we got bent push rods or an actual valve issue, but I don't think that's the case. But to get started, we're gonna pinpoint exactly what cylinder is the culprit and go from there. So Brandon, why don't you fire the machine up for Daddy?
This one.
Yep. Alright, so as you guys can tell, that's not a normal noise on this engine. That's not a good noise. Sounds like a sewing machine. Definitely sounds like a valve issue already. So what I'm doing is, I'm listening to the valve train with my stethoscope to see which side is the noisy. And that's what will determine what cylinder is the culprit. So this is pretty noisy, but I'm going to go around to this side. So already, when I put my stethoscope on this cylinder, it's a lot quieter than this side. So I'm leaning towards that this cylinder here is the culprit, okay? I'm going to go ahead and give it just a little throttle, not much, so you guys can hear the noise that's making. I don't want to go any higher than that because I don't want to do any damage, but as you guys can tell, that's pretty noisy. So what we're going to do first is we're going to pull this valve cover off and we're going to check the valve lash and go from there. But we'll know more once we get into this this valve cover as to what's going on. So first things first, we need to remove this bracket here on both sides, the exhaust bracket, and that'll give us access to these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts that are holding the cover on, and we'll go from there. So Eric's just taking this bracket off here so we can get access to the valve cover. So Eric got the exhaust bracket out of the way.
Oh, heard that one.
And he dropped one of the valve cover bolts on the deck. That's all right. So there's 5 valve cover bolts that gotta come off.
And only 3 gotta go back in.
And only 3 gotta go back in. All right, so we just took the valve cover off, and one thing I noticed right away is this rocker arm. Look how loose it is, guys. Let me see, get a different angle on this. Look at this. That was probably a lot of the noise that we were hearing. Over time, these come loose. Look at the whole thing is loose. The whole assembly is loose, and that's what was causing all that chatter. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna take the spark plug out. We're gonna put the engine at top dead center, and then we're gonna get out our feeler gauge and set the intake and exhaust at 4 thousandths. Kawasaki recommends you running both at 4 thousandths. That's what at least I run mine at. And then what we'll do is we'll fire it back up and see if that sound is gone. But I'm pretty positive that this was the problem. Look, this isn't supposed to be loose like that. That's what was causing all your chatter.
It's not good. At least it's something simple.
Yeah, something stupid.
Yeah. Is the other one moving?
No, the other one,
A little bit?
the other one's okay for now, but we're gonna reset the lash on it. But see this? See how this whole assembly's moving like that?
Yeah.
That's not what we want. But let's pull the push. You know what? Let's pull the push rods out and make sure nothing's bent since this was flopping around.
Good idea.
All right, so we took the push rod out and we checked it. Here it is right here. Make sure it's not bent, and all's looking good right there. However, this rocker arm mount right here, where it mounts to the cylinder head itself, it's got like a little keyway right here where the stud goes. We found that it broke off the head. It broke right in there. We found that this stud broke off the head, so now there's no way to keep this from spinning. Okay, what that stud does is it locks this into place so it can't do this. So without that stud there, this is just gonna move again. So I really don't want to put a head on this machine. So we're gonna try to figure out what we can do here to lock this in so it won't move again. All right, so as you guys can see, there's an alignment pin right here that on this rocker arm mount that holds this from going back and forth. And what happened is that pin sheared off, and that's molded, that's casted into the head. This is where it used to go, right there is where it used to go, it broke off. So I played with many different options in my head. I even called my father, who's a much better mechanic than I'll ever be, and you know, we discussed maybe welding like a little nipple on the end of here and drilling some of this out so it would have a groove to stick in there so this wouldn't turn anymore. The idea of red Loctite came up in conversation. And, you know, I didn't really want to drill into the head here because I didn't want particulates inside of the head, metal shavings or anything like that. So what we decided to do was knurl the bottom part of this mount here. I did it with a hacksaw. It took a little bit of time, but I was able to knurl it real good so that now when I put this on here, it's pretty solid. When I put the red Loctite on there, it'll be solid where this won't back out and move anymore. That's the best way I could come up with to fix this head without actually replacing the head. You know, it'd be kind of a bummer to replace the head for something so minute, so small, you know. But, you know, that's the way we're going to go. We're going to red Loctite the bolt through here. You know, and with this being knurled on the bottom, I think we'll be fine. Once we set the valve lash on this side and get everything right, I'm going to check the other side to make sure that the clearance is right. But I had a feeling that we had a valve train issue when I listened to it on the stethoscope. I could hear something clanging in there, so that's what it was. The alignment pin broke. And, you know, it broke because he hadn't adjusted the valves before. And the valves came out of adjustment, created too much play, and the rocker was dancing around, and it loosened up this bolt just a little bit. And this turned and sheared the pin off. That's exactly what happened, so. But we'll get it fixed. I'm thinking that this should be fine. This repair should be just fine for this. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm gonna stick some red Loctite in there, getting this buttoned up, and then we'll set the valve clearance. All right, guys, so it's the next morning. I ended up calling it a night last night, and it was getting late, and plus I wanted this Loctite to dry on that mount. So we're gonna set the valve clearance here, and the way to do that is you need to put the piston at top dead center, okay? So what I did was I took the shroud off the top here so I can manually turn the engine over and get the piston at top dead center. And sometimes this can kind of be a pain because if the piston is not in the exact point at top dead center and you set the valve lash, you could get a false reading. It's happened to me many times. I don't know why Kawasaki's haven't used a hydraulic style lifter yet, but I don't know. There's obviously a reason why they haven't, but that's why I like the Kohler motors where, you know, there is no adjustment on the valves. It's just simple. But anyways, we have to adjust these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the lash at 4 thousandths. I got a feeler gauge. I'm going to set the lash at 4 thousandths with the feeler gauge. And then I'll crank the engine over by hand and do a complete rotation on it and then check it again to make sure that my adjustment is correct. If you don't do that, you run the risk of when you put it back together, it's still going to chatter, and we don't want that. So that's the steps we're going to take, and hopefully all works out. All right, guys, so I got a 4 thousandths feeler gauge in here in between the rocker and the valve spring. And what you do is there's the bolt going through here is on like a barrel, okay? And as you tighten that bolt, the barrel clamps down and makes this tighten up. So what I did was I put my feeler gauge in. I rotated this bolt until the rocker arm hit this feeler gauge here, and then I went on the other side of this nut here, this jam nut, and tightened it up. So when I set the clearance on the 4 thousandths, I like to run a tight 4 thousandths, okay? A pretty tight 4 thousandths. So when I put this feeler gauge in, I got a little bit of drag on it, a little bit of resistance, as you guys can see that there. That's a good 4 thousandths, okay? That's what I set mine at. So on this other one here, which I haven't done yet, as you can see, it's loose. See how it's loose?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna stick the feeler gauge in there, in between the rocker arm and the valve spring.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take this 10mm wrench here, and I'm gonna turn this bolt. And see what happens when I turn the wrench? See the rocker arm tightening up?
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's getting snug. It's a little too snug. A little too tight. I'm gonna loosen it up just a hair. That feels decent. I'm gonna go just a little more with it. All right, I got these adjusted really good. Got a little bit of drag on there, which is what I want to see. I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna turn the engine over by hand, do 1 revolution on it, and see what the reading is. All right, I got these adjusted at 4 thousandths. Turn the motor over by hand. Everything's matching up, which is good. I got a brand new valve cover gasket here because we broke the other one when we took the cover off. Gonna go ahead, put this on, and fire it up, and just see if the noise is gone. We are gonna do the other side, but I just want to make sure that this side's not chattering anymore. All right, so we got this side wrapped up. We're gonna fire it up now, see what it sounds like. I'm assuming the other side's gonna need adjusting as well, but we're gonna do it anyway. But Brandon, go ahead and fire the machine.
Hey guys.
So already that sounds a lot better. But as you can tell, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Just like I thought, this side's loud now. This side sounds good. You can hear the noise coming from over here now. So we're gonna adjust this side. So I want to show you guys something here on the other side. I got the piston at top dead center. And this is the 4000 feeler gauge. Look at that. Look how loose that is. There's way too much clearance here. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten it up now, and once we tighten it up, that ticking noise should go away. All right, I got this side adjusted now. As you can see, clearance is a lot better. Getting a little bit of drag on the feeler gauge, which is what we want. I'm gonna go ahead and put this cover back on and fire it up. All right, guys, here's Eric's mower, all done. I ended up taking it outside, power washing it and detailing it. It was very dirty. And, you know, hadn't been cleaned in a while, so I figured I'd clean it up for him. Checked all the fluids, added oil to it, cleaned out the air filter. Made sure everything was pretty much ready to go on this mower for him. And, yeah, everything seems to be all set now, which is good. Let's go ahead and start it up and see what it does. Obviously that sounds a lot better, guys. No more loud clanking noises going on. So what ended up happening is these valves had never been adjusted since he owned the machine. The machine has 500 hours on it. And what happened is over time, the valve lash got excessive, and it got excessive enough to cause vibration. And the vibration ended up loosening up the rocker arm mount. And what happened was everything was just kind of flopping around inside of there. And when that flopped around inside of there, it sheared off the alignment pin that was casted into the head that holds that mount from turning, okay? So we had to improvise a little bit. You know, we didn't want to buy a new head and, you know, take it all apart, put a head gasket on it, intake gasket, you know, exhaust gasket. We didn't want to go that route because it's kind of, you know, a little bit of an invasive surgery, so we wanted to avoid that. So the Loctite should lock it in good, you know, and knurling the bottom of that mount should really take care of this problem. So the valves are adjusted good now, intake and exhaust set at 4 thousandths. And, you know, should be good for another 300 hours or so. So that's going to wrap it up on this one. So now that Eric's mower's done, I need to see what's going on with the Pink Panther. I've got some charging issues going on. You know, I put a new stator in it, put a new voltage regulator in it. It's still not charging, which makes me believe that I have a flywheel issue, but I'm not sure. We're gonna have to take it apart and see what's going on there. But seems like everything needs work, and it's just never enough time to fix anything. All right, we got the Pink Panther here in the garage, and let me tell you, this machine has become quite the science experiment this season. A couple weeks ago, Renee's out mowing our grass with it, and all of a sudden, smoke started coming from the instrument panel, like really bad. I had to grab the fire extinguisher out of the trailer because I thought this thing was going to go up in a big fireball. And what ended up happening is the main harness was so old, this mower's 23 years old, that the wires corroded on the inside and started shorting out, and everything was going crazy. There was smoke pouring out of here, things burning up. It was really bad. I had to disconnect the battery real quick, and you know, like I said, I was ready for a big fireball. But we cheated death. We got lucky. We didn't have any major issues. So what I ended up doing is I did an emergency surgery, went to the Walker dealer, grabbed a whole new harness for a T23, and you know, slapped that in real quick, and then we were back out mowing the next day. But what we got going on here is we got charging issues. You know, something's not right. I had issues before the mower caught on fire, and you know, the battery kept going dead. It was cranking over slowly. So I was like, okay. So I pulled the engine out. I put a I put a new stator in there. I put a new voltage regulator in there. Everything seemed to be fine. Well, cranking it the other day just didn't sound like it had a lot of juice. So I went and put the voltmeter on it, and you know, while it was running, and it's only putting out 12.8 volts. So it tells me that the charging system's not charging. So the only thing that's really left to be a problem would be the flywheel. So what I'm leaning towards is the flywheel magnets have either come loose and they're kind of just dancing around inside of there, or the magnets themselves are just weak and you know, it's not putting out any juice. So we won't know until we get into it, but the first thing I got to do is obviously you got to pull the engine out. And you know, you Walker guys know that if you own a Walker mower, you better get good at taking the engine out, because it's gonna be a frequent thing. So you know, it won't take me long to get the engine out, probably like 30 minutes or so. I'm not gonna film it because you guys have seen me do that many times. But once I get the engine out, we'll dive into it and see what is going on with this flywheel. All right, got the engine out. Actually, it took me 15 minutes instead of 30. You know, done it so many times now, it's a walk in the park. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the engine pulley off. We're gonna pull the cover off here, this plastic cover, and then we'll pull the flywheel off and see what's going on with that. My battery charger makes a great engine stand, by the way. Works out good because I don't have to lift the engine up very high to get it up on there. And keeps it nice and stable while I'm working. All right, I got the cover off. We're gonna pull the coils off because they need to come out. And then we're gonna pull the crank adapter off. And there'll be a bolt right in the middle of the flywheel. I'm gonna take that bolt out. And then I'm gonna stick my pry bar behind here and give the flywheel a little love tap, and it should pop right off. So I don't have a flywheel puller. I just do it the old school way. Stick a pry bar behind there. Give it a little bit of a love tap. Sometimes you gotta go on the other side. Here it comes. I like to use a dead blow so I don't nick up the flywheel. If I used a regular hammer, it'd nick it all up pretty good. I don't want that. Okay. You guys can see the new stator that I put in it last time. It's weird, you know. It's my fault. When it was giving me issues before, I just said, it's probably just a stator. So I went on Amazon and bought a stator. It came with a new voltage regulator. I put it on. Didn't even bother to check to see if it was actually doing its job. So my fault there. I don't think this is defective though. I think it's in the flywheel. But this thing's been giving me starting issues too. In the morning, fires right up. Run it on a lawn or two, shut it off, go to the next property, go to start it up, just cranks like 10 seconds before it fires. And then when it finally fires, it you know, blows a lot of black smoke because it's loaded up. So it tells me that it's an ignition issue. So I think that we're gonna dive into this flywheel here. And you know, if I can't find anything wrong with it, I got another flywheel from another engine. I'll just stick that one on there and go from there. So here's the flywheel here, and I was expecting to be an issue with the magnets. And none of them appear to be loose. It's really kind of crazy here. We'll see how the strength of the magnets is. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Well, at this point, I mean, I already got it off, and I put a new stator in it, like I said, and it's got new coils, new stator, new voltage regulator. I'm just gonna swap the flywheels out and see if that fixes the problem. Maybe the magnets are just weak. I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure at all, to be honest with you. But let's put my other flywheel on it and see if that fixes the problem. All right, fast forward a little bit here. Off camera, I was inspecting the old stator here, and apparently something got inside of here and took a good sized chunk out of it. Not sure if that's going to affect the way that this thing operates, but I didn't want to take any chances, so I had an extra stator laying around from another engine. It's used, but you know, I don't want to put this thing back together and have it not work. So used stator, rewired it, and as I'm over here, I'm looking. This is my old flywheel right here. Okay, I'm blowing it down, I'm cleaning it out. I see these particles coming out everywhere, so I'm like, what's going on here? Well, this magnet here got gouged up pretty good. Is this going to affect the operation? I'm not sure. So what I did was I took the flywheel off of my donor engine that I had laying around, and of course 2 magnets fell off when I took it off. So I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So I went to the store, grabbed some JB Weld, put them back on. Now I gotta wait for this to set up until I can install the flywheel. Luckily, this is a quick setting JB Weld. It sets in 4 hours and it completely dries in 12. So I'm gonna wait 4 hours for this to get set up enough so I can install the flywheel, and then you know, I'll be able to get this thing back together. All right, fast forward a little bit. The JB Weld was dry enough now. It's been a couple hours to install the flywheel. And what I did was I installed my coil on this side here. Kohler recommends a 13 thousandths air gap, which is basically the gap from this right here to the coil. Okay, so got a 13 thousandths feeler gauge here, and I basically just stick it on there like that, put the coil on, and tighten the bolts, and then I pull it out. And then when you're done, give it a quick check, and that's good. Got a little bit of resistance when I pull on it. That's exactly what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process on the other side, and then I'll be able to get the engine cover back on. And we're back. It's all back together. I took some brake cleaner, sprayed the whole engine down, blew everything out with the air gun, got in all the nooks and crannies where all the grass likes to collect, and you know, cleaned it the best I could. Pretty much ready to go back in the machine now. Gonna go ahead and do that off camera. You guys have seen me do that 100 times as well. Just gonna bolt it back in, and I won't fire it up till tomorrow because I really want that JB Weld to dry thoroughly. But I'm gonna get it all set up and ready to fire up for tomorrow morning, and then hopefully by tomorrow morning we'll be ready to go. All right, it's back in, ready to go. Tomorrow morning I'll fire it up, make sure it's charging. Fingers crossed, hopefully it is charging. And then if it is charging, I'll reset the RPMs on the engine and make sure we're around 3750 with no load. And you know, we should be good to go. If it's not charging, I don't know what's gonna happen. But anyways, I'll see you in the morning. All right, good morning everybody. I came out in the garage here early this morning, fired the machine up, not charging. So I'm like, what on earth is going on here? So I come down here to where the voltage regulator is, and I disconnect it, and I go full throttle with the mower, and it's putting out 44 volts AC and nothing on the DC side. Basically, it was just like 12 volts. So I'm like, okay, so it's not the stator. So I'm like, what's going on here? So then it dawned on me, maybe I got a bad ground wire. So I put a new ground wire on here, and I even changed the location of the ground. I went right to the engine bolt with it under here. Fire up the machine, charging normal now. So that was the problem pretty much probably the whole time, was a bad ground wire, but you know, what are you gonna do? See, right now it's reading 12.78 volts. Let's fire it up and see what we get. Volts, that's perfect. It's right where you want to be. I knew my hard work would pay off eventually. It's crazy how a ground wire was the problem the whole time. But you live and you learn. Alright, now that the charging issue is fixed, I want to make sure the RPMs are where they need to be. I do this every time I pull the engine out, because sometimes this gets out of adjustment. So I got this little tachometer here. You just wrap it around the spark plug wire a few times, and it gives you a readout. So these engines like to be 3,750 RPM at no load. You can go up a little higher to 3,800 around there, but we'll see where we're at right now. Complain over that. That'll be fine. That won't do any damage to the engine. But the RPMs are right where they need to be, so I'm happy. So I'm going to call this repair done. Alright, so we're all loaded up, ready to go mow some grass. You guys are probably wondering, hey, how come the hopper is not black anymore? Well, the answer to that is I had to put a different hopper on it. The black one finally decided to take a crap, so it was in rough shape anyway. So I found an old Walker mower that was for pots, took this thing off there and put this on there for now. I'll probably paint this black over the winter, but right now I just don't have time. So been slowly working on the trailer here and there, organizing it the way I want. You know, I added some things up there like an air tank and a booster pack and stuff like that, but I'm going to be going through this trailer pretty much completely during the winter time when I have a lot of free time and really making it into what I need it to be. Got the fire extinguisher here on this end and that end. Had to get two new ones because I had one go off on me, believe it or not, when I was driving down the road a couple weeks ago. It fell off the wall and made a big mess in here. It was a dry chem fire extinguisher and it made one hell of a mess I had to clean up. But anyways, moving on. Well, since everything's fixed now, let's go mow some grass. Hopefully everything works fine and we don't have a breakdown, but we'll see. Renee's cutting the front yard. I'm in the back here, in the backyard with the blower. I'm gonna blow out all the mulch beds real quick. Try to get everything out into the lawn so Renee can suck it up. Every week we come, we just do constant maintenance to keep this place looking fresh. Alright, I went around, I blew out the whole perimeter, blew it all into the lawn so Renee can just go around and suck everything up and leave the lawn nice and clean. Guys, just wrapping up this property now. We just finished mowing. Here's the final. We try to get it as clean as we can. The leaves just keep falling, you know. It's tough to leave the lawn spotless when it's raining leaves on you, but came out pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Real quick, this is the latest addition to the trailer. I picked this up real cheap, guys. This is a Fradon 31 horsepower loader. It was not easy getting on the tongue of this trailer. I had to make custom mounts and everything to get it to work, but I'm really hoping this thing works out good. It's quite the upgrade from the 18 horse Little Wonder that we had. But you know, only time will tell, see if it's going to work. But I had to make a lot of modifications to get this on the trailer, so I'm hoping that it's going to do us well. All right, so we're here at our next property and it doesn't look like it needs to be mowed. So I think we're gonna hold off a week on this one. You know, not gonna cut it if it doesn't need it. We also have this property here, but we just aerated and overseeded that. So you know what, we're gonna give it another week and then we'll come back to this one. Yeah, this lawn doesn't even need to be mowed. It's that time of year, guys. The growth is slowing down. All right, so I just got home from work for the day. Eric's here to pick up his mower. Are you happy that it's fixed now?
Can't believe it. It's fixed.
So the total repair was less than $20.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Go ahead and fire it up and see if it sounds a lot different than before. I like your Halloween costume. What was that? Give me a Hulk. Hurrah! No, like you got to do the big thing. Hurrah! Wider. Go wider. Hurrah!
Wow.
You like your Halloween costume?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. As always, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch. Eric, I'm sure you're happy you have your mower back and ready to kill it this fall with it.
I still can't believe it only cost less than 20 bucks.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to cost a few hundred at least.
Well, we did what we had to do to fix it and get you back up and going.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.
Thank you for watching.